And I was college. That's right. Good. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I would like to welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Pottstown. Welcome to all those who ventured out to be with us here today in our sanctuary. Welcome to all those who chose to join us on Zoom, and welcome to all those who are watching this later. With all the choices we have for our Sunday mornings, I'm so glad that you chose to be with us. For over 50 years, the UUFP has been a liberal religious voice in the Pottstown area. As UUs, we believe that fact and faith are not an either or proposition. We believe that we can and should honor the wisdom of the past, even as we acknowledge that the past does not have all the answers, and that one of the ways we honor the past is by learning from it rather than repeating it. We believe that there are still plenty of questions to explore. Perhaps most importantly, we believe that no one is outside the circle of justice and compassion. We hope that your spirit, your heart, and your mind are refreshed as we commit ourselves once again to our 7 guiding principles. We come together this Sunday morning and every Sunday morning, not because we share a creed, but because we share a promise to support one another on our spiritual journeys. Our services are different each week, but the loving kindness we offer one another in this community remains the same. So whoever you are, wherever you are, and whomever you love, we are glad to have you here today. Are there any announcements?
Thank you, Michelle. Just one announcement. There is a solar eclipse coming up this coming Saturday. It'll be partial, just a tiny chunk of the sun will be out. But please do not look for that without a pinhole camera or eclipse glasses. And I have those and some information about the solar eclipse in the whatever you call the room, fellowship room.
Yeah.
So look for those there. And then the big one, of course, is April 8th coming up, which will be a total solar eclipse. You only have to travel a little bit west or a little bit north to see the totality.
Good morning, I'm Miranda. Hi, CT. Let's see. That was a diversion. Halloween party. The 21st of October, 5:30. We're going to have brains and friends and all kinds of cookie stuff. Costume contest for adults and a costume review for the kids.
I have an announcement. So I'm the new Social Justice Committee Chair, and this Monday is Indigenous Peoples Day. And I was doing a little bit of research about that, and I just thought this area was originally the Lenape Indian people's land, and there are no reservations or dedicated land to any native peoples in the state of Pennsylvania, which I thought was really interesting. And there is a association in Philadelphia called the Native American House Alliance, and they help out. They basically do a whole bunch of stuff, but they do a lot of education and outreach and helping with Native American like welfare issues and things like that right in the Philadelphia area. So I thought it was a really cool organization. So I'm going to find out some more and maybe post it on the bulletin board if anyone's interested. So any other announcements? Okay. So I would like to introduce JD Stillwater, which we're very familiar with. JD Stillwater is a science ambassador and author who writes and speaks about profound insights from natural reality, insights that drive paradigm shifts and cultural awakenings. This work springs from JD's love of science and his gift for making difficult concepts graspable for non-scientists. He is an officer of the Religious Naturalist Association, which develops and promotes a religious naturalist orientation. Thanks, JD.
Thank you. We want to open our service this morning with words from Meister Eckhart, who said, "Treat all things as if they were loaned to you, without any ownership, whether body or soul, sense or strength, external goods or honors, house or hall, everything. Had a child who's gonna like the chalice, but they're not present, must be present to like. So our chalice sighting comes from Reverend David Breeden, who is the senior pastor of the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, still serving there now. And he writes, "Our light is the light of the sun, keeper of all we love. Our light is the light of the earth, provider of sustenance. Our light is the light of all living things, life precious like our own. Our light is the light of each of us, bound together in need and hope. Our light is the light of the cosmos, keeper of all we know." Beautiful. Will you join in singing our opening hymn to the gift? It's number 16 in the gray hymnal, and I believe the words will also be up on the screen if you prefer that. Someone's doing the offering. Is that where we are now or not yet? Oh, that's right. Skip ahead. Well, actually, if the video is ready, I think it is for all ages. So let's watch it.
Oh, is it not?
It's okay if it doesn't work. You can just go on.
It's Mine, a fable by Leo Leone, published by Scholastic Incorporated. It's mine. In the middle of Rainbow Pond, there was a small island. Smooth pebbles lined its beaches, and it was covered with fern and leafy weeds. On the island lived 3 quarrelsome frogs named Milton, Rupert, and Lydia. They quarreled and quibbled from dawn to dusk. "Stay out of the pool!" yelled Milton. "The water is mine!" "Get off the island!" shouted Rupert. "The earth is mine!" "The air is mine!" screamed Lydia as she leaped to catch a butterfly. And so it went. One day, a large toad appeared before them. "I live on the other side of the island," he said, "and I can hear you shouting, 'It's mine, it's mine, it's mine,' all day long. There is no peace because of your endless bickering. You can't go on like this." With that, the toad slowly turned away and hopped through the weeds. No sooner had he left than Milton ran off with a large worm. The others hopped after him. "Worms are for everybody!" they cried. But Milton croaked defiantly, "No, this one, it's mine." Suddenly, the sky darkened, and a rumble of distant thunder circled the island. Rain filled the air, and the water turned to mud. The island grew smaller and smaller as it was swallowed up by the rising flood. The frogs were scared. Desperately, they clung to the few slippery stones that still rose above the wild, dark water. But soon, these too began to disappear. There was only one rock left, and there the frogs huddled, trembling from cold and fright. But they felt better now that they were together, sharing the same fears and hopes. Little by little, the flood subsided. The rain fell gently and then stopped altogether. But look, the large rock that has saved them was no rock at all. "You saved us!
You
Saved us!" shouted the frogs when they recognized the toad. The next morning, the water had cleared. Sun rays chased silver minnows on the sandy bottom of the pond. Joyfully, the frogs jumped in, and side by side, they swam all around the island. Together, they leaped after the swarms of butterflies that filled the air. And later, when they rested in the wing, they felt happy in a way they'd never been before. "Isn't it peaceful?" said Milton. "Isn't it beautiful?" said Rupert. "And do you know what else?" said Lydia. "No, what?" the others asked. "It's ours," she said.
I think we're skipping the song for singing at the show. Okay. No. I'm Ann Stillwater, and will you join me in a short time of quiet reflection and contemplation? I ask myself, what is truly mine? How did it come to me? And where will it be in 1,000 years? Please remain seated as we sing together hymn number 1011 in your teal hymnal, Return Again.
Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And the life and the work of this fellowship are enriched by the gifts that you offer. You offer your companionship, your caring, your time, and food, and yes, even your money. Please give generously to support and sustain the UUFP. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of compassion and action, faith and fellowship, hope and wholeness.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be here this morning. I want to start with a reading from Margaret Atwood, who's also the author of some pretty popular novels. This is a poem she wrote called "The Moment," and it's been powerful for me. She writes, "The moment when, after many years of hard work and a long voyage, you stand in the center of your room, house, half-acre, square mile, island, country, knowing at last how you got there, and say, 'I own this,' is the same moment the trees unloose their soft arms from around you, the birds take back their language, the cliffs fissure and collapse, the air moves back from you like a wave, and you can't breathe. No," they whisper, "you own nothing. You were a visitor, time after time, climbing the hill, planting the flag, proclaiming, 'We never belonged to you. You never found us. It was always the other way round. Ann and I have a beautiful house in Harrisburg, not that far from here. We drove from there this morning. Our names are on the deed, but it's not our house. I have a car that's in my name, parked outside here, but it doesn't belong to me. The money in my bank account is not mine. I don't even really own these clothes I'm wearing this morning. And no, this is not a message in which I admit to grand theft auto or forgery or identity theft. But our legal system would assert that my possessions are indeed rightfully mine. However, it's that system I want to challenge this morning, and what its spiritual depravity does to us as people, especially people in this country at this time in history with so many possessions. This is not my beautiful house. Now, if you were an adult in the 1980s, right now you might have a Talking Heads song stuck in your head, right? A song in which David Byrne ominously recites, "You may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife." Then he says, "Into the blue again, into the silent water, under the rocks and stones, there is water underground, same as it ever was, same as it ever was." I know that now that song's gonna be stuck in your head for a while. You're welcome. Many years ago, Anne attended a lecture by Ralph Nader, and she told me about something he did, which I want to repeat right now. Take a moment and just bring to mind the most valuable thing that you own. Go ahead, take a second. What's the most valuable thing that you own? You got something in mind? All right. Now raise your hand if the thing you have in mind is the National Mall, or the Grand Canyon, or the James Webb Space Telescope, or the US military. No one? Well, if you're a US citizen, you own those things. Why don't we feel that? Why don't we think of them as ours when we get a question like this? Well, I have a guess. I think it's because we have a perversely limited notion of ownership that's personal and private. And it's one that both exploits and elevates our fear of being vulnerable. And then it makes us yet more vulnerable even as we cling to our hollow icons of security, like my beautiful house. I'm pointing over here, but actually Harrisburg's probably that way, right? Anyway, I'm living the American dream. Ann and I are fairly comfortable, even on Ann's school nurse salary, which is the same as a teacher's salary. We each have a car that works. We can afford to eat out every so often. We're saving for retirement, and we can afford to give some money away each year without threatening our survival. We are solidly middle-class Americans, and there's really nothing essential that we lack. And we get to pat ourselves on the back for being basically decent people, right? And we might be justified in claiming that everything we have came from our own hard work, doggone it. But it's not true. I didn't earn these things on my own, though I did work hard for them, because achieving middle-class comfort, in this country at least, takes more than hard work. It also requires luck and a supportive environment of people and circumstances that acts as a kind of tailwind in life, adequate resources within reach, and a little bit of thieving done before I was born helps too. So that beautiful house of mine is built on land taken by trickery and genocide about 300 years ago. And it's made of trees that were cut from forests that, well, you know this story, right? It's a long and violent story celebrated every October this weekend under the old name Columbus Day. It's a story of colonial genocide that oppresses some people and benefits others. And it's a story that continues today, systematically excluding certain people from accessing resources while facilitating the access of other people. Water flowing underground. And that story boils down to a headwind for some of you, even today. Well, I enjoyed a nice tailwind for most of my life. This is what we call privilege. And it suggests that some portion of what I have rightfully belongs to someone else. I've been playing drums and percussion for nearly 50 years now, and I do so actively at our home church in Harrisburg. And it was drums that I was thinking of when writer and MIT professor Junot Diaz was interviewed by Krista Tippett a couple of years ago on her radio show On Being. And he said, I am a child of blackness. Blackness was not meant to survive, and we have survived. And we have thrived. And we've given this world more genius than we have ever received. End quote. So, my musical contributions are fun for me, and I hope of value to others, but they're built on a mountain of genius from an African heritage that's not mine. Even the drums themselves. So, is my music really mine? History suggests that some large measure of it belongs to, or at least should be attributed to, someone else. Ooh. Well, maybe lots of people, and maybe historians and politicians will sort that out someday, somehow. But privilege and appropriation are not really what I'm getting at this morning. They're related, but I think they are themselves symptoms of something deeper. Now, I speak with more authority if I stick to science instead of history. And I want to suggest that the rightful owner of all my stuff is not really any person or group of people at all. So what does science have to say about all this? Well, as is very often the case, poetry is the best port of entry to the realm of physics and cosmology. And this time from Khalil Gibran, who wrote, and this may be familiar to you, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls. For their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. That's the end of the poem. And the poem being about children makes it easy for us, because in our enlightened time, we agree that people are not property, even children, right? But Khalil Gibran's reasoning applies equally well to cars and houses and music and all that plastic crap we have in a storage unit somewhere. Did you know there are more storage facilities in the United States than there are McDonald's or Starbucks? There are 50,000 of them, and they're building more all the time. We passed a bunch of them just on our way here, right? Our possessions own us too. Here's what modern physics says. This is not a world of things. This is a world of flow. As Nobel Prize winning physicist Niels Bohr said, quote, everything we call real is made of things that cannot be regarded as real, end quote. Now, he's using the word real here as a stand-in for things, objects, tangibles, stuff. He and his generation of physicists had just demonstrated that things are made of interacting atoms. And atoms are made of interacting protons, neutrons, and electrons. And that those are made of energy. Not tiny little objects that move around energetically, but literally only energy, movement, flow. Things are themselves made of relationships, which are made of relationships all the way down, dancing, flowing, under the rocks and stones, water moving underground. One of the more compelling slides from my Seven Candles Project workshop is of standing waves on a river. You've probably seen this, where river water flows up and over some kind of obstacle on the riverbed. And that makes a wave that maintains its form and shape and location, but it's made entirely of flowing water. It's part of the river, right? So the wave looks the same over time, but it's made of different water every second, every moment. So while that video is playing on the screen, I say, our bodies are like a standing wave on a river. Matter moves through you, takes your form briefly, then moves on to become something else for a while. But you are not the atoms and molecules that make up your body. You are the pattern that organizes the matter as it flows through you. Every time you eat or drink or sweat, atoms and molecules flow in and out, different each moment, just like that standing wave on the river. So I have to ask, are the carbon dioxide molecules that were part of your brain moments ago, but are now over in that corner of the room, are those yours? How about the oxygen molecules that were part of a tree just an hour ago and are just now entering your nostrils, destined to be part of your brain by the time I finish this sentence? Are those oxygen molecules yours? Whose are they? Who do they belong to? They are the sons and daughters of nature's longing for itself. If there's a case to be made for private ownership, ownership of one's own body is the ultimate slam dunk, right? What could be more fundamental than the rights associated with my own body? And yet, Ann and I almost didn't make it back from a simple day hike a few summers ago. For months, we had planned our climb up Mount Katahdin, Maine's highest peak, and the northern end of the Appalachian Trail. We've done a fair amount of Appalachian Trail hiking, and this was our chance to finally see the northern terminus up, right? And we're experienced hikers, and we had decent equipment, and we're in decent shape, at least we were then. We got up early to beat some rain that had been forecast for that area for that afternoon. But the rain came early, and of course, the forecast from the Weather Channel doesn't include the likely temperatures on top of the highest mountain in the whole state. And so we soon found ourselves clambering up and down large boulders in freezing rain. It was pelting us in a 50-mile-an-hour wind. We both lost control of our fingers due to the cold and the wind, which then hampered our ability to manage our clothing. I couldn't operate a zipper, for example. And our clothing mostly got soaked in spite of our rain gear because of the wind. So this normally moderate 10-mile hike ended up taking us nearly 13 hours. And for some of those hours, I was pondering how long it would take park rangers to find our bodies and how our families might handle the news of our deaths. So is it really my body, my life? Or has it always been the Earth's on loan to take back at any time? I get to manage or mismanage it just like any line of credit from a bank, but it was never mine, really. This is not my beautiful house. Until the last few years, people living in hurricane and wildfire zones believed, as most of us do, that they owned their houses and the stuff that's inside them. And every year now, the earth calls in thousands of outstanding loans. It's part of our culture to seek security, however fictional and temporary it might be. And this hard ingrained notion of private ownership is one expression of that. It's enshrined in our Constitution, uncountable legal documents, deeds, titles, bills of sale, all kinds of court argumentation and case law, there's acts of Congress, on and on. All of those testifying to its hold on our psyches. And yet, its fictional nature is quickly exposed when we consider riparian water rights, for example. This is a branch of law going all the way back to English common law. And it recognizes what should be obvious, which is that a stream flowing through my property isn't mine, but rather it's a public good, like the air. Well, we only have to expand our notion of time a little bit to notice that trees and soil and rocks and houses flow through my property too. They just flow more slowly. Our culture claims I own them. They're not really mine. They're on loan. I just manage them as they pass through. Water flowing underground. Wendell Berry is the source for one expression of this that I like. He said, "The earth is not given by our fathers. It is borrowed from our children." For a longer perspective, science now can take us back to the beginning of time. Everything we have and are and become is made of energy from before the Big Bang. Energy concentrated or frozen, some people say. I don't like that word frozen because it's still constantly moving. But energy that got concentrated, compressed to make up every atom that exists today. That energy made everything from atoms to entire worlds, all by itself, for nearly 14 billion years before we came along. How absurd to claim some of it as ours or mine, right? Does a drop of water own the river? Being alive bestows on us a limited ability to manage a limited amount of that Big Bang energy for a very limited time. It's not ours. The belief that we own stuff clouds our ability to see reality, the reality that our stewardship is always temporary, that everything we have represents a loan and a responsibility, and that the future always demands a return of those things to their true owner, an archer which sees the mark upon the path of the infinite and bends us to let fly those arrows that we pretend to possess ourselves. Our deep faith in the pretense of ownership allows us to think that it's normal and healthy for multi-billionaires to burden their children with obscene wealth, completely unearned, and often spiritually and psychologically damaging to them and all their contemporaries. Do I need name any names? So normal that almost everyone leaves their assets to their children, telescoping social inequities through generation after generation, centuries even. It allows us to accept without outrage the outrageous behavior of those who devastate millions of acres of pristine forest ecosystems to scrape out a meager profit from tar sands, or who buy and sell access to air and water and land stolen from others. It gives us a sense of entitlement, especially for middle-class people, that too often makes me act like a spoiled brat when I don't get what I want, when I don't get my way, or when I don't get the special treatment I think I deserve. It encourages us to worship money and consumer goods, and to spend our lives accumulating plastic crap and oversized garages to fill up with piles of stuff that we hope will fill the awful emptiness in our souls. Later that same summer, after Katahdin, Ann and I attended the annual conference of the Institute on Religion in an Age of Science on Star Island off the coast of New Hampshire. And I met and befriended a woman there about my age, who's named Aloka. And Aloka has lived about half her life in India and the other half in Toronto. And one day over lunch, she took me to task about the arrogance of you white people. She was speaking from a place of pure love, and I knew that, and I also knew her well enough at that point to know that she had wisdom to share if I would just shut up and listen. So I shut up and listened. And she said, you in the West have all the material possessions anyone could dream of, but spiritually, you are in deep poverty. So deep that you can't even see how impoverished you are. You come to India and all you can see is bare feet and dirt floors and dry farmland. And for some reason, you don't see the wide smiles, the happiness, people loving and supporting one another, contentment, devotion. You set about to fix what isn't broken. And in the process, you destroy it. I'm paraphrasing. We spoke for about an hour, and she influenced my perspective profoundly. And I think when she speaks of spirituality there, it's clear to me that she means core values like gratitude, humility, acceptance, mindfulness, groundedness, community, vulnerability, and stewardship. To be rich in these is to be spiritually wealthy. We are so poor in them. And we cling to our possessions, from my observation is that we cling to our possessions with a kind of cultural desperation. A friend of mine recently reframed the phrase letting go for me. This has been a lot to me. She said, we often think of letting go being like this. Right? But letting go can also look like this. I want to hold the assets I manage like this. Is there anything that I can truly call mine? Yes. And I think Aloka might say it's the most important thing. It's this. Not this thing or these things or these people, but this experience, this moment, and this one, and this one. Exquisite pearls, moment by moment, threaded onto the necklace of my life. Truly unique, truly mine, provided I don't miss them while shopping or obsessing about all my stuff. Make no mistake, I'm not arguing for public control of property or some form of communism. That would just shift the fiction of ownership from the individual to the group, right? I'm saying that our myths of possession and property poison our souls, corrupting us spiritually by distancing us from the constant flow of reality. I'm arguing for humility, the kind of humility that acknowledges our vulnerability and our interdependence with everyone and everything else. An acceptance that the wealth and comfort I have is not all the product of my own personal labor. One that acknowledges that I'm embedded in an interdependent web of existence, which supplies everything I have and to which I owe everything I have. And the most gracious and healthy response I can think of to my comfortable lifestyle is gratitude coupled with continuous generosity, continuously paying forward into the flow of existence. And I have to admit, I fail in this most of the time. So this is an appeal to all of us, but myself especially, for frequently asking the question, how shall I steward this bounty that is entrusted to my care? It's an appeal for fully embodying the trustee role, asking, what is the highest possible use for the resources that I control? Not for me personally, but on behalf of their true owner. For the great grandchildren I love, but will probably never meet. For the seventh generation of your descendants, who I also already love. For those who might live 1,000 or 1,000,000 years from now. This is not my beautiful house. This is not my beautiful wife. Under the rocks and stones, there is water underground, into the blue again, into the silent water, same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Amen. To be. Are we singing together? Number 121, We'll Build the Land. Great. us out, I want to share a poem written by my friend Dorothy M. Brown. She's a member of the church in Harrisburg. And she wrote it after hearing me share sentiments similar to the sermon you heard today. It's titled All That You Have by Dorothy M. Brown. Do not speak aloud of your good fortune. Not one bit of it is really yours. All that you have, you know, will slip away, merge with the universe, tomorrow or the following month. Speak softly of the rosy sky, the bright cheeks. Lift your face to every quivering leaf. Let every step approaching you sound in your heart. Offer to all your silver cup.
Stop recording, right?